Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 7 of What If Deku Date Momo Yaoyorozu. If you notice some errors or some missing parts in the video, please tell me in the comment down below. Hope you'll enjoy the video. So young man, what are your intentions with my mother? I'm far older than you, young Midoriya. And how many times do I have to tell you it really was just a meeting about your progress? Nothing happened. We just acted so weird because we knew you would think we were together. Then why does she call you Tashi? Toshinori sweat dropped, that was her doing. I felt that the formalities could be dropped and that I liked my real name better than Mr. Yagi. So I said to call me Toshinori, but she liked the nickname better. Izuku squinted his eyes, so nothing happened? No. So, could you please stop trying to strangle me? In the truck sat Toshinori Yagi and Izuku Midoriya, the latter of which being held back by the former trying to keep the teenager's hands off of his throat. Izuku slumped back down into the passenger seat and sighed. Sorry. So, you really aren't, together? Young Midoriya, I've only known her for a couple of weeks. No, I'm not dating your mother. And I would of course ask you about it first. If I did like her, that is. Okay. Well, that's a shame. Toshinori spat out blood in surprise. What? You actually want me to date you, mother? Then why did you try to strangle me? Fear tactics. But I guess I am okay with it. Well, it would be weird. I mean, to have you and my mom be together. But I do know that you make her happy. And she thinks you're funny. And what is it? It's just that, it's something that little kid me could only dream about. Having you for a dad, that is. My Hisashi left without even saying a word. I was born, he left to America for work, and when he got the letter that I was quirkless, we never heard back. And we've never heard from him since. Or, at least I haven't. I'm assuming mom had to for the divorce, but I didn't even learn about that until years later. Toshinori was doing his best to soak up every word of this and take it to heart. It wasn't often his successor shared this kind of stuff, so Tashi felt that he should take what he could for now. He waited for Izuku to continue. I never really knew him. So I guess the main reason I want you to be with my mom is because you already filled the space of father figure in my life. Might as well get the full package. Oh. And because you make my mom really happy, of course. A deafening silence filled the car. Izuku shifted uncomfortably in his seat, avoiding all eye contact with All Might. Yeah, this is weird. I'm so sorry. Forget I said anything. I'll just go. Midoriya put his hand on the door handle, but just as he was about to exit the truck, a bony arm wrapped around his shoulder, pulling him into a hug. Another hand was placed on his head, patting his head. No. Not weird at all. I've never really had a family of my own. The closest I've ever had was my master in Gran Torino. He's basically like my weird uncle, Toshinori chuckled. But, trust me when I say this. You've definitely more than filled in my spot for family. So I'm honored to know that you feel the same. I'm also very uncomfortable because your tears are soaking through my clothes. Toshinori looked down to see the floor of his truck begin to fill with water. Sorry, Izuku sobbed. That's okay, my boy. Also, quick question. Why is young Todoroki parked next to us looking at us with binoculars? Izuku shot up and whipped around to see Todoroki sitting in the passenger seat of a car, parked directly next to them, looking at them through large binoculars. Why he chose to use binoculars, even though he was 3 feet away, the world may never know. They made eye contact with Shoto and they saw him panic and yell at the driver, presumably his sister, and then they sped off. Oh boy. 1 minute earlier. Shoto, why did you make me drive you all the way out here, just so you can spy on your friend and his dad? Fayumi asked. That's not his father. All Might is. All Might has a kid. Well, at least I think. That's what I'm trying to prove. I don't know who the skeleton is, but he can't be Midoriya's dad. He looks nothing like him. Neither does All Might. Shush, Shoto said. Fayumi gave a look of disbelief. Do you seriously not have anything better to do with your time? Yes. Okay, now they're hugging. They're talking. They're looking right at me. Okay, now crap. Drive. 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 Fayumi ignited the engine and sped off into the night. First week back to school. No fair. You guys had all the fun. Yaoyorozu sheepishly smiled towards her pink friend. I wouldn't exactly call fighting for your life against a serial killer fun, Mina. All of the girls were surrounding Momo's desk, sending question after question her way. Hagakure was the next to speak. Yeah, but still, you guys went up against a hero killer. That's at absolute least a conversation piece. A conversation about how we lost, and edge shot had to save us. I don't think I'm missing much. Yaoyorozu hated lying like this, but it was the only way. She turned to see the boys hammering Izuku, Iida, and Todoroki about it as well. When Izuku walked into class today, she saw him and Todoroki awkwardly stare at one another, both unmoving and unblinking until Izuku sat at his desk. She would have to ask about that later. For now though, she would have to ponder Bakugo's hair as he walked into the room. Kirishima and Shiro both taking immediate notice. "What's up with your hair, man?" Bakugo stood shaking and seething with rage. "Shut the fuck up. I can't fix it." Shiro could hardly speak through his laughter. "You look like a K-pop star. Shut your fucking mouth, office supplies." Boom, Bakugo's hair popped back to normal. "There it goes." As the two were about to be burned to a crisp, Bakugo made eye contact with Izuku. He walked his way over to his desk and loomed over him. Momo wanted to intervene, but she knew how that would look. It would show Bakugo she knew something, breaking the promise she made to Izuku. She had to trust in Izuku to handle this on his own. Bakugo had been avoiding Deku for a while. Katsuki didn't want to see his dumb fucking face. That nerd had almost bested him in a fight. Him. Katsuki Bakugo. Katsuki's entire world flipped after that. He couldn't chalk it up to being some fluke or some dumb plan the weakling made like during their first her exercise. This was a no-holds-barred, no gear, no partner, all-out fight against one another. And Bakugo almost lost. Katsuki ignored Izuku because he was trying to turn him back into the pebble. The thing he didn't have to even acknowledge existed if he didn't want to. If he didn't exist, it wouldn't matter. The bug he could crush at any time. But the damn nerd didn't make it easy. He was always doing shit to stand out now. Katsuki just wanted Deku to go back to curling up in his desk and not speaking. And now the hero killer business finally put some ease to Katsuki's mind. That idiot had 3 other extras to help him, and he still got his ass kicked and had to get saved. To think I would ever start to worry about goddamn Deku. Maybe he actually hasn't changed. Bakugo finally felt like himself again. He saw Deku in his desk and thought it best to remind himself of where he stood. "So nerd, you fought the hero killer and got your ass kicked. Why am I not surprised? You won the sports festival, but can't even handle some lowlife." Stain was seriously skilled Bakugo. He's killed dozens of people. I don't think that warrants being just a lowlife. Whatever. If I was there wait. The fuck did you just call me? He could see Deku start to squirm in his seat at this. Bakugo? He's never called me by my surname. What the hell is he doing? Hey Deku, answer me. Why did you? I am here, accidentally breaking the door. All eyes turned to see All Might with the handle to the door in his hand, disconnected from its home. If anyone asks, Mineta did it. What? Why me? That's not very truth and justice like. Well, young Mineta, when it comes to you, I and literally everyone else doesn't care. Especially the fan base. You'll be billed by the end of the week. But anyway, young heroes, today it's time for another heroics lesson. Onward to Field Gamma. Field Gamma. Now you might be wondering what we're doing today. Well, wonder no more. Today we are doing some good old-fashioned racing. Or more appropriately, racing to save the day. Every hero must know how to get to the scene of a crime in a quick and timely manner. No matter if they have a speed quirk or not. 5 students will be randomly picked to race against each other to get to the citizen in trouble. Which will be yours truly. I tried to get a dress and a baby carriage to look the part for the cliché damsel in distresses. But the dry cleaners was clothes. The class snickered at his joke. What? Did I say something funny? Or, actual statement? Anyway, the person to finish first gets this thank you hero sash. Let's see who's up first. Hanta Shiro, Mina Ishido, Izuku Midoriya, Tenya Iida, Masahiro Jiro. Toshinori looked awkwardly as the number 4 spot. Well, I think it would be best if you sat this one out, young Iida. Actually, sir, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to try. I'm wearing my brace, it's been iced, and it would be good to stretch it out a bit. My legs are getting terribly stiff sitting all day. I'll allow it. But if you feel any pain throughout the race, you must stop and not continue any further. Do you understand? Yes, sir. Alright then. Head to your starting positions, racers. All 5 students were at their starting points, stretching and preparing for the start. The rest of the class was back on the original platform, making bets on who they think will win. It's gonna be Shiro, said Kirishima. Nah man, Ajiro propels himself with his tail, and it's strong as hell. He's got this. Kaminari chimed in. Mina's got great reflexes. She's totally gonna win. I'll bet you 1,000 yen on it. Mineta spoke out, actually giving a legit compliment instead of a pervy remark. Oh, you're on, both of the other boys said simultaneously. Soon the most of class got into it, making a little betting pool that soon built up to only 6,000 yen due to some of the class not betting. Each person that did place a bet, Mineta, Kaminari, Kirishima, Hagakure, Sato, and Asui. Bakugo placed a bet, but it was considered invalid since all he said was Deku's gonna fucking lose, put in 1,000 yen each. Each racer got at least one bet for them, except a certain green-headed boy. That is, until someone else chimed in. I'll bet double or nothing on Izuku. All eyes widened and turned to look at Yaoyorozu in shock. While I'm not usually one who usually condones gambling, this is too good to pass up, she said, smirking. Kaminari laughed. I thought you were supposed to be the smartest in class. Midoriya's a great guy, but he breaks his bones just by using his power. Kirishima also spoke up, even with his new moves from the sports festival, he's still pretty slow compared to the rest of them. Momo just smiled. So I take it, you'll accept the bet. You're so on. I'm gonna be rich. Kaminari gloated, already thinking of the things he could buy. All Might got on his megaphone to begin the race. Jiro and Uraraka had a sudden realization, and both turned to Yaoyorozu at the same time. Did you just call him Izuku? Begin. The class watched as Siro shot to the sky, Mina slid across pipes with acid, Iida raced through the streets, and Ajiro bounced his way across rooftops. Siro immediately took first place, much to Kirishima's glee. He turned to Yaoyorozu. Looks like your boy is nowhere to be found, Yaoyorozu. It's a good thing you're rich, or else this would put a hefty dent in your pocket. I'd look again, Kirishima, Momo said confidentiality. He and all other eyes looked back to the screen to see a giant light arc spark up into the air from the center of the city. Afterwards, a green streak of light zipped over and through pipes with ease, passing all of the competition with ease. And within the next few seconds was already over halfway to the finish point. What the hell is that? The camera couldn't even focus in on the streak. It was moving too fast. Before anyone knew it, the green light skid to a stop in front of All Might, revealing Izuku Midoriya to his class. We have a winner. All jaws of Class 1 had dropped besides the four who were at staying with Midoriya and already knew about his new speed. Momo walked over to Kirishima and lifted his jaw back up to close his mouth. I withdraw my bet, by the way. The rest of the participants finally made it to the platform, all minus Iida were flabbergasted. Ashido zipped over to Midoriya, grabbing onto his collar. What the heck was that, Midoriya? Midoriya began to blush at the closeness of Ashido and began to stutter and sputter. To which then caused Momo to then feel an uncomfortable irk in her stomach, but she pushed it down. Jiro saw the sudden appearance and disappearance of Yaoyorozu's discomfort. She wondered what it was about, but then followed Momo's line of sight to see Mina shaking around a blushing Midoriya. So Yaoyorozu is uncomfortable at Midoriya being close to another girl, and she calls him by his first name, wonderful. Just fucking wonderful. Jiro wanted to look at literally anything but that. So she moved her eyes away from the scene to see Uraraka giving off the same look that she herself was, and somehow Yaoyorozu's face all at the same time. Sorry Achako, I feel your pain. Bakugo was boiling mad. What else is new? While I was wasting my time with that fucking moron Jean boy, Deku was just getting better. Again and again and again, this shit keeps happening. Katsuki would once again take a sudden disinterest in Izuku Midoriya. Midoriya walked to All Might and accepted the sash. Well done, young Midoriya. Now who's up next? Midoriya looked down at his sash and smiled, thanks Gran Torino. Young Midoriya. Izuku looked up to see All Might trying to whisper to him. That was astounding. I couldn't even recognize you. Meet me in the teacher's lounge after class. With that, he walked away to start the next round of races. 1 hour later. Girls' locker room. Momo has just taken off her belt when, holy crap, yeah, Momo. Where did you get that thing? Momo turned to see Hagakure's floating glove point towards her locker and realized she was referring to Fushigiri. Oh, that's the sword Edge Shot gave me after our internship. I kept it above my locker because I figured they wouldn't do combat exercises on the first day back. Oh. Edge Shot gave it to you? I figured it would be your new boy toy Izuku. Momo blushed a bit. Don't you go around thinking I didn't hear that, yeah, Momo. First name basis, huh? Is there something you're not telling us? Nope. Just two good friends using each other's first names. Each other's? So Midoriya also calls you Momo? Mina added and smirking. Everyone shut up for a second. All turned to Kayaka at her words. Do you hear that? Everyone began to get quiet as Jiru began looking around the room for the source of the noise until she found a hole in the wall. All the girls walked over to it. Do you think this is Mineta's doing, Ribbit? Jiru jacked one of her ear jacks into the wall and the other into her phone. Let's find out. Using a trick she picked up on her internship, she sent the noise she was hearing through one jack and into the other, conversation of the boys coming out from her phone. Same time. Boys' locker room. Yo guys, check this out. The grapehead said. I would like to present to you the pinnacle of our UA high predecessors. The pervs before us have passed down a gift. A perfect hole into the girls' locker room. Izuku's brain all of a sudden betrayed him with the image of Momo Chanjin no. Mineta continued, whoever wants a peek you can join, but I get first look. Mineta began rubbing his hands together and walked over to the hole. Oh man, I can't wait to see Turu's floating underwear, Uraraka's urarific curves, all of Mina's firm lower half, Asui's surprising assets, Yaoyorozu's perfect body stop. Mineta turned back around to see Midoriya glaring at him. Izuku has only just realized something. He had never actually tried to stop Mineta. He had perved and harassed all of the girls in class, and while Izuku hated it, he had never actually stopped it. Or hell, even said anything about it. But today, something just snapped. He hated the idea of Mineta looking at Yaoyorozu that way. Or any one of the girls that way for that matter. Especially without their consent. I said stop. Momo's had quite enough of your constant harassment. All the girls have. And I definitely have. So stop. Right now. All the other guys in the locker looked a little confused. Except for Iida and Todoroki who were in total agreement. The others just kind of chalked it up to be good old Mineta's antics again. But it seemed Izuku didn't see it that way, at least not anymore. Mineta squinted his eyes and turned around. Oh. So you call her Momo now? I see Midoriya. You just want Yaoyorozu all for yourself. What? No, I don't worry, man. I get it. I would too if I got that. But just because you already got to plow her soil doesn't mean we other poor and humble farmers shouldn't have a chance. Have some pity. Don't hug it all to yourself. All eyes whitened and eyebrows rose, except for Izuku's whose brow furrowed. Wow. I now know how Ka-chan feels. What do you mean? I mean I now know what it feels like to want to kill somebody. What? Come here. Girls' locker room. All the girls heard next was screaming, banging, shouting, and possible explosions from the boys, and likely sobbing from Mineta. Suddenly all became quiet, and the next thing the girls knew Shoto's ice filled the hole in the wall. Kayaka took out her jack and turned back to the other girls. So Mineta's dead. Mina turned to Yaoyorozu, yeah, sure. He's totally not your boyfriend. Whatever you say, girl. While Momo was a little terrified at what had just happened, she was also extremely flattered and happy. Izuku was the first person besides the other girls to actually stand up against Mineta. Iida always reprimanded him, but that's it. Izuku actually did something. While she highly doubts he's dead, whatever happened she knows Mineta deserved. They didn't find Mineta for 3 days. 2 hours later. Teacher's lounge. Hey All Might. Ah, young Midoriya. Please take a seat. Toshinori looked over to see Midoriya's hands covered in, hopefully not, blood. Should I ask? Probably not. Yeah, I'm going to anyway. What the heck? Izuku sat down with a first aid kit that was on the wall and began wrapping his hands up. It's my own blood, not anyone else's, so don't worry. I hit a locker and scraped my hand across the ridges. Why exactly did you punch a locker? Izuku rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. I tried to hit Mineta. I would ask why, but I get the feeling it has something to do with a remark made towards young Yaoyorozu. That. And he was gonna try to peek into their locker room. Toshinori pulled out his phone and sent off a text. Nezu should be speaking to him soon. Good luck finding him. I said I tried to hit him. I never said I failed at doing other things. Tashi sighed and slumped down into his chair. I'm gonna ask again, young Midoriya. What are your feelings towards Yaoyorozu? Midoriya thought for a second, really thought. He thought about her smile, her absolute stunning and flawless beauty inside and out. Her love for books. Her lack of confidence just like him. The way he watches it slowly build up. Her elegance. How much she inspires him. How much he feels like he can trust her. Her loyalty. Her cute little quirks like when she twirls her bang or moves her tongue around when she's thinking hard. Her skills. Her giddiness when it comes to learning and helping and more. Her compassion for others. Her compassion for him. Her warm hugs. The comfort she brings to him. How somehow every color is brighter wherever she is. The way she makes all of the bad days in his life not matter anymore, as long as she's there. Reason after reason after reason just kept flooding his mind. He couldn't stop it. It was endless. He looked back up to All Might, who clearly already knew the answer. I like her. I like her so much. I like her so much it hurts. I haven't stopped thinking about her since the sports festival. While training. While fighting Stain. She's always there. I know. So what are you gonna do about it? Nothing? All Might face palmed. Really? Really? Boo-oh. Boo. Why are you booing at me? Because you're being stupid. Why would you do nothing? I just can't, okay? I just can't. I mean, look at me. I'm me. Izuku plain as can be, never give a passing glance Midoriya. Even if for some unholy reason she did like me, she does. If she does, I still have a target on my back. I'm too dangerous. Izuku slumped down into the seat, covering his face with his hands. Who gives a damn about All for One? Izuku looked back up to Toshinori. I let him control my life for too long. I refuse to let him control yours. But you said I know what I said. Never mind that. All Might got up and kneeled in front of Izuku, grasping his shoulders. You are an amazing kid. You are a teenager. You're allowed to love, even if you don't understand it yet. If we live in fear of what he could do, then we're letting him win. You have a life to live, and I have a strong feeling it's with that beautiful young woman. End of the summer. What? You have until the end of this summer to tell her how you feel. That way you can focus on finals now. If you don't, I'm gonna start intervening. Midoriya looked away for a second and mulled over everything All Might said. Okay, end of the summer. I'll do it by then. I promise. Izuku got up and wiped his eyes and went to the door. He suddenly turned around and hugged All Might. Thank you. And then, he left. Toshinori rubbed his temples. Kid, you're gonna turn me gray. Yagi thought about what he had said to Midoriya. About how he shouldn't live in fear of All for One anymore. Maybe it was time to take his own advice. He pulled out his cell phone, dialed the number, and leaned against a window. He looked out to see Yaoyorozu and Izuku leaving the school grounds together as his phone rang. Click, hello? Afternoon Inko, it's Tashi. Do you wanna go out sometime? For a meeting about Izuku? No. Like a date. A real date. A romantic date. I would very much like that. Is Saturday okay? Perfect. I will see you then. I'll pick you up at 7. Okay. Goodbye. Click. Toshinori slowed his breathing. What has this family done to you, Toshinori? The last week of June. The weeks that passed for Class 1 were fairly uneventful. The most interesting thing to happen was the fact that when the teachers finally found Mineta and sent him off to Nezu, he came back normal. He didn't really do anything perverted. Well, at least not overtly pervy. He is still Mineta after all. Now, while it may have been uneventful for the class in general, Izuku didn't seem to catch a break. In a good way though, kind of. While it may have been nice to get his feelings for the creation quirk beauty off of his chest, it came with a whole new set of problems. That was the first time he had said it, much less thought it. Now that his feelings were open to himself, being around Momo was almost scary. He was terrified that he would accidentally mutter stuff he wasn't ready for her to know yet. Every time they touched, Izuku would shiver, which in turn showed Midoriya just how touchy Momo seems to have gotten. A hand on the arm here, and hand on the back there. A multitude of times throughout the day it would happen. So much so that Momo would continuously ask him if he was cold from all the shivering. Izuku's body also seemed to get sick of the containment of his emotions. Almost every single time they were close to one another, Izuku got an extreme itch in his brain to just blurt it out. And her hero costume really didn't help. Just when Izuku thought he had trained his mind to ignore all of the skin-tight costumes of his female classmates, his infatuation with Momo sparked to life. He couldn't keep his eyes off of her. He really felt guilty for what he did to Mineta, because now he was doing the same thing the Grapehead did. It got so bad that Izuku started to draw up some redesigns for her. He just couldn't take it anymore. Besides, he didn't want to get caught staring. He hated himself enough for doing it, he didn't need anyone else berating him. He was almost done with the final sketch. He already checked in with Power Loader to see if the materials he needed existed. What Power Loader showed Izuku was essentially the latest version of Midnight's self-repairing cloth. Very thin, easily tearable, but it gets the job done and protects you. Izuku then realized the innuendo of Midnight's material choice. Gross. Deciding to definitely not think about Momo essentially wearing a body condom, he finished up his final design. He knew that Momo still would need open spaces, even if the material was thin, and whatever she created could easily tear through it. Her arms were still bare, there was a cleavage window, and the sides of her hips, thighs, and calves had openings on each section. The basic aesthetic design was still the same. The entire suit were still the same colors. Her belt was the same, and the silver cutoffs were still there. Izuku even put cushions on her boots for quieter steps. There was also a small clasp on the chest, so she could open it up whenever she wanted to. I'm finally done. Now all I need to do is what are you drawing, Izuku? Izuku slammed his notebook shut and looked up and to the left to see Momo standing over his desk. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Momo smirked. I thought said you would show me when you made an entry on me. Izuku realized he was busted. He slowly slid the notebook over in embarrassment. Yaoyorozu picked it up and found her page, her eyes widening. Is this? It's a redesign for your costume. Not that I don't like your costume now. It's just that I thought you might like something that covers you a bit more. Momo looked it over from the materials to the openings on the sides. She was already highly impressed by the costume, but she was even more impressed with Izuku's art skill. I can't actually look like this. He made me out to be some kind of goddess. Well, that sounds pretty accurate to me. Yaoyorozu's eyes shot back up to meet Izuku's. The first thing she realized was that she once again muttered out loud like he did. And secondly, she realized what he had said. He essentially just said she looked like a goddess. Was that a flirt? Momo wasn't sure if Izuku intended to say what he said out loud either, because he was suddenly sweating up a storm. Ahem, well, that's very sweet of you to say, Midoriya. Thank you. Now when did you plan on giving this to the support course? You mean you like it? Of course I do. Besides, I would like to have it before the practical exams too. Okay. Yeah. We can go after class. Wonderful. We should also go to our study spot again later. I know ya, Momo. Both students turned to see Ashido and Kaminari jump over to Izuku's desk. Ashido slid up to Momo and put an arm around her shoulder. Did somebody say study? Because we could really use the help. Kaminari's shoulders slumped. We kind of haven't studied at all. And being ranked last in the class isn't something I'm too proud of. So can you guys help us? Mina then put her arm around Midoriya too. Yeah. We can form a study group. We'll surely get good grades with the top 2 students helping us out. Izuku heard Bakugo growl at that in the background. With Izuku hanging around and talking to Momo most of the time, that also includes study time. Izuku always thought he was a smart kid and studied hard, but it was an entirely new level with Momo. With all of that time combined, Izuku had engraved more than enough knowledge permanently into his brain. Which in turn caused his grades to shoot up through the people in front of him. AKA Iida and Katsuki. And while Bakugo has decidedly not spoken up about it, he was clearly pissed to not only be beaten by Deku in grades, but also not even be in the top 3. Izuku pondered over the proposal, but Momo answered for the both of them. Really? You all want my help? I'd be happy to. We can do it at my house, and I'll even have mother prepare the Great Hall. Great Hall? The rest of the group thought. Izuku watched as others like Jiru and Siro walk over, also asking for help. He might have been roped into this without giving an answer of his own. But first of all, who was be kidding? He was going to help them. And secondly, how in the world could he ever say no to the face Momo was making right now? Or at all actually. While Momo was talking to the others, Izuku felt a hand grab onto his shoulder and yank him around to see glaring red eyes. Listen Deku, I don't care that you're getting a handle on your quirk. I'm getting fucking sick of all your damn stunts. The festival, the hero killer, and now our term grades. Don't you think for a damn second that you'll hold that position for long? You're going to fall so far behind me that you won't even be able to see my explosions in the distance. Katsuki then turned to Todoroki a few feet away. The same goes for you, icy hot. I'm coming for you too. Bakugo yanked his bag up and stomped out the door. Izuku still couldn't help but inwardly sigh in relief that he had left. He might have accepted that Bakugo really isn't his friend. But he still can't help but feel awful every time Katsuki expresses his hatred towards the quirk inheritor. Izuku felt breath on his ear. He's wrong. Izuku turned to see Yaoyorozu whispering next to him. He needs to get it through his head that you're a better hero than he could ever hope to be, she said, glaring at the door Kaken just left out of. Izuku knew Momo disliked Bakugo after she learned of their past, but now it seems she grows to hate him with every passing day. Whenever they hear him yell or boast at something or someone, Izuku always sees the suppressed annoyance on her face. A face that Mr. Izawa noticed as well. Eraserhead was peering around the corner of his desk on the floor in his sleeping bag. He had watched the interaction between Midoriya and Bakugo, and then he saw Yaoyorozu's reaction to it all. It seems the terrible relationship between the problem child and the explosive annoyance surpassed even just the two of them and spread to others. Shouta has been aware of the growing closeness of Midoriya and Yaoyorozu. He has also been aware of Yaoyorozu's sudden confidence drop as well. He didn't even want to think about the similar issue Midoriya had, and Bakugo clearly wasn't helping, if not the cause. A new idea sparked to life in Izawa's head. He needed to talk to Nezu. The following evening. Why do we have to learn how to do the quadratic formula? I'm never going to use it. Mina yelled throughout the hall of the Yaoyorozu household. Yaoyorozu zipped over to Mina. Mina, you got the last few problems correct. You're doing perfectly fine. We just have to review it a little longer. Jiru's hand suddenly shot up. Hey yeah Momo, can I get some help on number 17? I'm a little busy with Mina at the moment. Izuku. Can you help Kayaka? Midoriya stood from his seat. Yeah, don't worry. As Midoriya was making his way over to Jiru's chair, he was suddenly stopped by the punk rock girl. Oh. Would you look at that, I realized what I did wrong. I'm good Midoriya. Are you sure? I could hell nope. Perfectly fine. Thanks though. Izuku slumped back down into his chair feeling dejected. For some reason it seemed that Jiru didn't like him tonight. Even when she arrived for the study group, Izuku noticed that as soon as Kayaka laid eyes on him, her smile suddenly faltered a little. While she may have immediately put it back up, Izuku was far too familiar with fake smiling to know something was wrong. It was too bad that Izuku's attention immediately shifted to how gorgeous Momo looked in glasses. Jiru was noticing that same thing with Uraraka tonight. Her inclusion in their group was sudden, but welcome. She usually studied with Izuku and Iida, but it seems that with his change of plans, Midoriya decided to invite her along. It was just too bad for Uraraka that she chose a bad seat. She was far away from Midoriya, so every time she asked for help Yaoyorozu would come her way. Kayaka watched Ochako the entire evening like this. She was clearly looking for Deku to come and help her, but never got what she wanted. Kayaka decided that she was tired of not only going through this alone, but watching someone else do it too. Yaoyorozu helped Mina with her final problem and checked the time. We've been at this for quite some time. How about a break? There is prepared food in the living room for everyone to enjoy. We'll come back in around an hour. Mina, Kaminari, and Siro were out of the room when the word food was spoken. As Ochako walked out the door heading to the living room, she was suddenly grabbed by Jiru and taken into what seemed to be a spare room. Kayaka, what's going on? Jiru sat her down on the edge of the large maroon bed and then sat next to her. Look, I've watched you going through what I have for weeks now and I can't take it anymore. What are you talking about, Midoriya? Ochako immediately froze up. What do you mean? What about Deku? Ochako, I can hear your heartbeat. So I know you know what I'm talking about. Uraraka looked down at her lap and began to fiddle with the pads on her fingers. Am I really that obvious? No. I just recognized it because I'm in the same boat as you. You know what it's like to suddenly realize you like somebody and then immediately have that person clearly like another girl? I'll do you one better. Imagine all of that, except the person I like doesn't even like my gender. Kaminari's gay. What? No. Momo. Momo's gay, I wish. I mean no. I am. Jiru watched Uraraka's eyes widen. Oh. Oh wow Kayaka, I didn't know that. Yeah well you're the only one that does know. Really? I'm honored that you trust me enough for that private information. But wait, you said Momo? So you and I, Jiru slumped back onto the bed and finished Ochako's sentence. Have crushes on someone who likes the other's crush? Yep. Wow. Ochako imitated Jiru's position on the bed. Why did you decide to tell me this? Kayaka blew a raspberry. I guess I got tired of living through this by myself. Misery loves company and all that. I figured we both could use someone to talk to about this. Jiru suddenly heard Ochako chuckle. Is it weird that his actually kind of does make it feel a little better? A little? But who cares at this point? Uraraka covered her face and groaned. What are we gonna do? Kayaka closed her eyes. Absolutely nothing. It's clear that those two are completely head over heels for one another. It's only a matter of time before one decides to hate waiting and pull the trigger. So we don't really have an option but to be happy for them and move on with our lives. Kayaka then laughed. Unless you want to do spontaneous option B and retaliate by dating each other. You're not into girls too, are you? Kayaka asked sarcastically. Uraraka chuckled. I don't think so. Kayaka laughed. Not a very confident answer. Let's keep that in the maybe column. Both girls laughed away their sorrows for the evening. Both happy that at least now they had someone to talk to. Same time. As the rest of the study group left the hall, Izuku and Momo stayed back. Hey Momo, can I talk to you for a second? Of course. Is something wrong? I'm not sure. You see, I don't think Jiro likes me. Momo raised an eyebrow as she walked next to Izuku and leaned against the table. Kayaka? Why wouldn't she like you? I don't know. It's just that these last few weeks I've noticed she tends to avoid me and change mood when I'm around. I was afraid this might happen. Izuku shot her a look of confusion, so she elaborated. Izuku, Kayaka has been my best friend since the USJ. A title that, seemingly, has gone to you. It's not that I don't think Kayaka is my best friend. Of course she is. It's just that, I also see you as my best friend. And we have been spending a lot of time together. Perhaps Kayaka believes she is being replaced? Izuku did his best to be flattered at the best friend comment and not feel like he just got kicked in the stomach. Do you really think so? I'm not positive, but it's a likely possibility. I need to spend more time with her. I really have neglected her lately. And, do you really think of me as your best friend? Momo's cheeks were then dusted red. Well, you're very important to me. With everything we've been through, I can only find that title fitting. Thank you, you're my best friend too. Momo smiled warmly at his and Izuku returned it. They were less than a foot from one another, and the golden glow of the sun rays were hitting Momo straight on, and Izuku's mind was once again hammering it home. Tell her. Tell her. Tell her. I really like your glasses. They look very pretty on you. Momo's face turned into a tomato. Thank you, Izuku. You've been quite the compliment to Spencer these last few days. No, Mina, that's my sandwich. Get your own. Mama's hungry. Izuku and Momo both sweat dropped. We should go handle that, both said simultaneously. 1 week later. The students of Class 1 were standing outside of the testing grounds for the practical half of the finals. Every student was in their hero gear, and one specifically was wearing something new. Wow, yeah, Momo. You look smokin'. Yaoyorozu stood with her Creati Mark II costume on, designed by a certain green mop head. She had fushigiri strapped around her back, ready for its first real combat scenario. Thank you. I have a new personal designer who really outdid themselves, Momo said, sneaking a glance at a blushing Izuku. Alright class, listen up. All eyes turned to Izawa, who had Nezu writing in his scarf for some reason, and the rest of the teachers. The original plan for the finals was to have teams of 2 go up against one of us pros. However, Nezu has accepted my new course of action. I've decided to cut 3 teachers from the roster and make the teams by 3. Asui spoke out, but Mr. Izawa, we only have 20 students in class. One group will be missing someone. Actually, we could possibly have 21 after today. The class was all confused for a moment. Come on out. From around the corner of the building came the purple-headed brainwasher Hiroshi Shinsu. Shinsu here wanted to join the hero course, but was put in general studies. He believes he is ready to try and join us. So, we are considering this his entrance exam. He and his group containing Todoroki and Koda will be facing me. Izawa chose these 3 because all of them needed to learn how to communicate with other people, especially in times of crisis. And Shinsu should have an example of a recommended student like Shoto to learn from. The rest of the teams will go as such. Uraraka, Jiro, and Aoyama vs 13. 13 can exploit Uraraka and Aoyama's nausea, and 13's quirk can also capture sound waves from Jiro, essentially stopping her from over-relying on her quirk. Ashido, Kaminari, and Siro vs Nezu. Nezu can outsmart the 3 with the lowest grades in the class. Mineta, Ajiroi, and Iida vs Midnight. All 3 need to get close to their opponent, and fighting as against Midnight makes that not an option. And Mineta can learn to control his urges, while Iida can watch over him. Hagakure, Shoji, and Asui vs Snipe. All 3 need to work on long range and stealth capabilities. Kirishima, Sato, and Tokoyami vs Cementus. All rely too much on quirks and brute strength and power alone. And finally. Oh no. No. Fuck. Thought Izuku, Momo, and Bakugo respectively. Midoriya, Yaoyorozu, and Bakugo vs. Slam, all eyes turned to the giant hulking mass of All Might standing tall after landing in front of the class. Me. Momo was actually a little sad that All Might was going to be wearing weights to slow him down during their test. Now Bakugo wouldn't get hit as hard. She was of course only joking, mostly. She was in the waiting room with Izuku trying to form plans. Kirishima, Sato, and Tokoyami had just entered their testing area. Izuku had attempted to get Bakugo to join in, but all he said was "You can shove your plans up your ass, Deku," and then proceeded to leave. So now it was just left to the two. I really think the only option we have is to run and sneak past him. This is All Might we're talking about. Weights or no weights, we can't stop him head on, said Midoriya. As much as I agree with you, Izuku, I'm not so sure our teammate will. Momo watched Izuku slide down in his seat, frustration etched onto his face. I know, but we have to at least try to get through to him. But why? Izuku, if we try and most likely fail to cooperate with Bakugo, he'll be our downfall. We might be a team, but the scores are individualized. We can both pass, and he can fail. He's far too large of a risk for us. Midoriya knew that Momo didn't like Bakugo. In his heart he hated him too, but he also didn't. He couldn't help it. Momo, I know why Aizawa did this. The whole point of the teams and villains are to set us up to make the chances as low as possible and for us to work through our problems. Bakugo is my problem, and vice versa. Aizawa knows we can't be around one another and wants us to work together. But Izuku, we can't just expect it to just work out. Bakugo will not work with us. He clearly doesn't have the capability to fix his own issues. Then isn't it our jobs as heroes to help those with issues they can't solve? Momo stopped at that. Izuku's heroic heart was still ever present as always. I'm tired of Ka-chan too. I just want to get along, but clearly he doesn't want that. I was told that heroes butt into others' business and help, even when they don't want it. It's not your business, Momo, but you can still help. It is my business, so I have to at least attempt to get along with him again. If you want to go ahead and pass the test, then do it. I want you to pass. But I'm going to try to work with him no matter what. Momo looked at Izuku with almost defiance, but slowly turned into reluctant acceptance. She sighed and rubbed her temples. Do you have any idea how we're going to pull this off? Honestly, I just figured I would keep talking until I wore him down enough. Momo laughed. Well, that's one plan. Izuku, promise me something. Midoriya faced Momo with confusion. Izuku, you can't just take anything Bakugo throws at you. You have to show him that you can't just be pushed around. I'm fairly certain that will just make him angrier. Well, it's either talk back to him and have him get mad, but he'll be paying attention, or just go with whatever he says, making him ignore us and fight All Might head on. He's gonna punch me in the face. Probably. She put a hand on his shoulder as Izuku put his head in his hands. But if we all pass, maybe he'll start to warm up to you, Momo said with all the doubt in the world. 15 minutes later, test room number 3. Jiro, Uraraka, and Aoyama were walking around what seemed to be a lab facility. They had searched around for a while, but they hadn't found a single trace of 13 anywhere. Jiro had even tried listening for footsteps but found nothing. The trio made their way to a large open lobby with a large solar system model hanging from the ceiling. At the end of the room was the large exit door. Jiro and Uraraka smirked at one another. They had not seen 13 the entire time, and suddenly they were at the exit, which was under a solar system model, while they were supposed to be fighting the black hole hero. They weren't going to fall for this. Jiro plugged her jacks into the floor, and while faint, she could hear a fourth heartbeat in the room. They're here. But I can't tell where they are. We're most likely being watched. If they're waiting for us, then we can't head out there like this. We'd be sitting ducks. And the same goes for if we stay here too long, Uraraka said. We have to get across the room without being seen, mademoiselle. The girls turned to Aoyama. He focused on Uraraka. You have taken a liking to our opponent as a hero, yes? Your knowledge of our opponent exceeds ours. Perhaps you enlighten us on any information that can help us. Well, their quirk is almost exactly like a real black hole. Nothing can escape it. It can even capture light and sound, which explains why they were chosen to fight you too. And I can't get close, and if 13 sees me, then I'll get sucked up. Uraraka's head was in overdrive, trying to think of a way around 13. What would Deku do here? Jiro was thinking similarly about Momo. How would Yao Momo handle this? You both are thinking about our class's future star couple, correct? Both heroines' eyes widened and turned to Yuga. You, Lady Uraraka, are thinking about Izuku Midoriya. And Lady Jiro about Momo Yaoyorozu. Perhaps Aoyama backed away as Kayaka's earphone jacks pressed against his throat. Not a word to anyone. You got that, body glitter? Ooey. Ooey. Of course. I was just saying that you two should form a plan together. If you are both thinking of how the two smartest in our class would handle the situation, then together it could benefit us. Kayako lifted an eyebrow and looked to Uraraka. Achako shrugged her shoulders and nervously smiled. It's actually a pretty good idea. Kayako grunted and retracted her jacks back to her ears. So, how would Broccoli Boy handle this? Well, Deku tries to use his knowledge about the opponent to his advantage. Like when he fought Bakugo during the hero exercises. Deku knew that Bakugo would immediately go after him and start a fight with a right hook. 13 is trying to lure us out. She can easily negate your sound waves and Aoyama's laser. So how can we use that to our advantage? Jiru pondered for a minute, but an idea came to her. Yeah, Momo has gotten super stealthy now, right? And if we can't use sound or light, then we need to get rid of it. She huddled her team together and told them her plan. Meanwhile, 13 was getting tired of holding themselves up behind the hanging moon display above the center of the room. These kids are taking forever. At this rate they'll fail due to the time limit. Maybe I should. Wait, what's that noise? 13 listened to the extremely high-pitch echo throughout the room. All glass in the room began to shake, and soon enough all the lights were blown up. Everything went pitch black and 13 dropped down to the floor. It's a good thing that my helmet has thick glass, or else I'd be seeing blood for a while. Nice try, kids, but you're just as blind as me in this situation. 13 listened to the slight clanging noise confused. The more they listened, the more they realized that the noise was coming closer and closer. Then 13 realized the noise was right above her, and then it suddenly stopped. 13 looked up into the dark and squinted, trying to decipher what was going on. 13 was shocked to see a spark of bright, glittering light appear above her. The shine from the light revealed Uraraka and Jiru riding on the back of a floating Aoyama thanks to Achako's quirk. Aoyama's belly was facing downward and was now being used like an orbital laser up in the solar system display. Sorry, Mon-ami. Zap 13 barely jumped back in time. Her finger holes opened up to activate their quirk, but before she knew it a terrifyingly determined and combat-ready looking Achako had landed on her and brought down her arm. 13's other arm was then trapped by Kayako's jacks and hands. Uraraka pulled out the capturing cuffs and brought them down in 13's wrist. Click, the horn indicating they had passed went off and emergency backup lights turned on. Hell yeah. That was awesome. Kayako said, high-fiving Achako. 13 got up. That was great, kids, but what did you do? Kayako smirked. I sent out a high-pitch frequency to break all the lights. And to find you, we needed to be able to locate you in the dark. We needed something that could reflect off sounds easily for echolocation, 13 said, finishing her sentence. Uraraka then chimed in. Yep. And Aoyama's armor was the perfect tool. So I just floated him up, and we used him as a mobile echolocation device. Kayako just picked up where you were with your jacks. That part was my idea, but the rest was Uraraka, said Jiru. Yeah, well, I guess the credit really goes to Deku and Yaoyorozu though. Maybe, but you know what, no, that was us. Who cares about them right now? This was our win. Jiru wrapped and around Achako's neck. Come on. I'm in a good mood, so let's go see Kaminari make a fool of himself in his test. The girls walked away laughing, leaving an underappreciated Aoyama behind. As Uraraka and Jiru exited the room, Achako had to wonder. Deku's test shouldn't have started yet. I wonder about Iida though. Meanwhile, at Iida's test. Resist Mineta. Resist her sexual whims. The trio was surrounded by gas. Tenya was covering the holes over his mask to try and keep the gas out, but he could feel his consciousness fading. Mineta had tied his cape around his mouth and nose, blocking off the gas. Ajiro was fading fast. Iida was the only thing keeping him standing. Midnight was sexily stalking her way over to Mineta knowing he was the last of the competition. She was well aware of Mineta's obsessions. She might as well use her perfect assets to finish the job. And it was clearly working. Mineta couldn't move. Sweat was pouring down his face like a waterfall. His teeth were biting down on his lower lip, and his eyes were bulging out of his head. That look, she's inviting me. She wants me to try and touch her. I know it's a trap, but maybe just a quick squeeze will be worth it. Mineta looked over to Iida and Ajiro. Both were counting on him, and he was going to fail. He knew that a lot of the class didn't like him. He had considered Midoriya to be one of the handful he could consider a friend. But, after the locker room incident, he felt guilty. Nezu and Izawa had already reprimanded him for his actions and words. They had already threatened to pull him from the finals and automatically fail him. He already had the teachers watching him But now the ones he considered friends didn't even trust him anymore. Right now I can't fall for her. I might have started this career path for the chicks, but now my love for them is destroying that goal. For now, I have to go by the code. Bros before hoes. Come now Mineta, don't you want to come over to little old me? No. Really? Are you certain you don't want to know? Midnight was taken aback, this was unexpected. Come on, just a little no. To hell with you woman. Mineta began to viciously throw his head balls at Midnight. Some hitting her directly, but she had whipped most with her whip. Nice try, but now huh? Midnight tried to move forward, but looked down to see her boot stuck to the ground by Mineta's quirk. Her whip had caught most of the balls, but that caused it to stick to the ground with her hand. What the? No. She tugged as hard as she could, but the balls wouldn't release. Mineta ran over to Iida and helped hoist up Ajiro. Come on. We've got to get out of here. Mineta, that was incredible. You actually pushed back your lewd side for a change. Not fully. Let's just say I'm lucky my costume's pants aren't tight. Let's go. Iida, utterly mortified by what Mineta was implying, helped carry Ajiro out the rest of the way, passing their test. So far, Kaminari's team had failed, Kirishima's team had failed, and Todoroki and Kota has passed. But Shinsu has failed. He just wasn't ready, yet much to his chagrin. However, Aizawa has given him his contact information for some reason. Everyone else had passed, or were taking their test. Except for Midoriya, Yaoyorozu, and Bakugo. The trio were at the entrance to their testing site. The door opened to a large replica of a city, and their test began. Midoriya immediately started his attempt to get through to Bakugo. Okay Bakugo, Momo and I really think that we should go fuck yourselves. We're going to toy with him, and once he tires out I'll beat him up. Momo scrunched her brow in confusion. Are you serious? Do you have any idea who we're up against? Bakugo just grunted and walked faster down the street. Izuku ran up to Bakugo. Bakugo. Even with All Might's weights you can't win. He'll destroy us. Please just listen to me, crack. Izuku tumbled backwards holding his jaw. Momo was at his side in an instant checking him over. Both looked up to Bakugo to see him glaring over his shoulder. Shut your damn mouth. Just because things are going well for you doesn't mean you can talk to me like that. Never, ever tell me what I can and can't do. You're nothing. Momo got up and stomped towards him. What is your problem? Are you really so no? Shut up. I don't give a shit that you're fucking that nerd. You don't get to tell me anything. I know you've been making sure we avoid one another. He fucking talked, didn't he? I don't care what he told you, it's still not your damn business. So stop butting in and get out of here, bitch. Izuku stood back up. Don't call her that, shut the hell up Deku. He turned back to Momo. You can't even fight Bird Boy, so you have no chance here anyway. I'll do this myself, slam. Katsuki slid back from the group. He brought a hand up to his cheek and winced in pain. He slowly turned back to see Izuku, fist up and sparking with electricity. I said don't call her that. Sparks popped from Bakugo's hands. His entire body was shaking with rage. How dare you? Katsuki was stopped by Izuku grabbing onto his collar. Stop. Just stop. We have to stop fighting. I'm not going to be a punching bag. Isn't winning more important to you than being against me? I thought winning was what being a hero meant to you. Can't you see that we have to work together to win? Get the hell off of me. I'll smash. The teens were all blown to the ground by a gigantic gust of wind. All of the windows and buildings in the vicinity smashed to pieces. They all slowly got up and looked down the road. All Might was nowhere in sight. His punch was so powerful that he didn't even need to be close to affect them. Momo looked to Bakugo. That is what we're up against, Bakugo. So are you going to listen now? Katsuki growled at her and scoffed. It was visible that he was sweating. Fuck off. He blasted himself off down the street towards the source of the blast, directly towards All Might himself. Yaoyorozu and Izuku looked at each other. Izuku, are you certain we can get through to him? I don't know. But he was clearly nervous. We have to keep trying. Maybe we'll get lucky and actually wear All Might down. Yaoyorozu sighed. I truly hope you're right. She hopped onto Izuku's back, he charged up to 8%, and the two zoomed off towards Bakugo, only to see him fly past them and smash into the ground. Izuku, look out. Midoriya turned back forward to see All Might right in front of them, his fist already directed right towards Izuku's gut. Slam. All the wind was knocked out of Izuku as he and Momo fell back into the ground. Wow, you kids sure are loud. I didn't even have to search around for you. I could hear you a mile away." All Might shot forward with his fist pulled back. Momo created a shield on her arm and jumped in front of Izuku. The hit broke through her shield and sent her flying into a recovering Bakugo. "Momo." Izuku tried to run to her, but a large hand clamped down on his head. "Turning your back on a villain? How disgraceful. You deserve punishment." All Might slammed Izuku into the road guard railing and bent the steel around him. "There we go. Now to deal with the other two." Toshinori sped off to Bakugo and Momo, but before he got there Katsuki spun around with his hand held up. Stun grenade. A blinding light lit up in All Might's face. Katsuki jumped at this opportunity. "How's that feel, All Might?" Katsuki was stopped by All Might grabbing onto his face. Bakugo raised his free hand and began sending off consecutive blasts into Toshinori's face. "Ow. Ow. Ow. Haha. Small blasts like that only tickle. You need to." Toshinori looked down to see Yaoyorozu putting a deep gash into his leg using Fushigiri. Using his other leg, he kicked her away and then launched his knee into Bakugo's in the stomach. Katsuki was sent flying, and his breakfast from that morning was expelled from his body. Toshinori turned back to Yaoyorozu. "Taking away my speed? Smart move, hero, but that won't matter in the end." He leapt forward and punched at Yaoyorozu. But right before he hit her, she unclasped the front of her costume and created a large blanket. All Might hit the blanket and his fist with the blanket collided with the ground. Yaoyorozu was nowhere to be found. I heard about your training with Edgeshot. You clearly have picked up some tricks. But it's not enough." All Might spun around and backhanded and hit nothing. That's odd, I could have sworn that she was behind me." Izuku was unraveling the metal from around his body when he looked up to see one of the most impressive, yet funny things in his life. Yaoyorozu was standing directly behind All Might, and with every turn Toshinori made, Momo copied his movements, always in his blind spots. Izuku knew she couldn't keep it up forever. All Might wasn't dumb, he'd figure it out soon. Izuku needed to distract him. "All Might." Toshinori turned to Izuku. Izuku busted from the metal and launched at All Might with 8%. All Might was already pulling his fist back. "Not fast enough, ah." Momo has used Izuku's distraction and her new knowledge of pressure points to create heavy brass knuckles and jump up and slam down on All Might's shoulder tendon, causing his attacking arm to suddenly fall. This gave Izuku an opening and punched Toshinori across the face. Yaoyorozu grabbed onto Izuku. "This is our chance. He's slow now. We can get out." "Right." Momo hopped onto Izuku's back once more and they zipped off. Momo used her costume's bareback to create a riot shield if All Might decided to come after them. It seemed, however, that All Might wasn't afraid of them escaping. Leaving behind a fellow hero, and here I was thinking I was fighting the real deal. Izuku looked back to see All Might holding up Bakugo. He wasn't even resisting. He just hung limply from All Might's hand. Izuku saw something he never thought he would ever see. He gave up. Ka-chan isn't even trying to fight back. Izuku spun around on his heel and sped back to All Might. "Izuku, what are you doing?" Yaoyorozu yelled. She didn't get an answer as Izuku leapt forward and slid under All Might's legs. He jumped up and kicked All Might's elbow, causing him to drop Bakugo. Izuku grabbed Bakugo and started running towards the alleys. "Not so fast." All Might tried to grab onto Izuku but missed. Izuku thought he was in the clear until he felt weight lift from his back. He had grabbed Momo instead. Izuku began to turn back again. "Run." He stopped in his tracks to see Yaoyorozu create needles out of her back, poking All Might's hand, causing him to drop her. "I'll hold him off, just go." "But, go." Momo created a flashbang and threw it to the ground, blinding All Might for a second. Momo pulled out her sword and stood her ground. Izuku didn't want to go, but he knew this could be his only chance to do what he set out to do since the start of this test. She was doing this for him. "I'll be back. I promise." Momo watched him zip into the dark alleys. As soon as he was out of her sight, Momo's fear crept back into her body. She was all alone now. Izuku was her boost back when she fought Stain. But now she was all alone with her thoughts now, and she felt like she was back training with Edgeshot. Her mind was a complete mess again. What would Izuku do? Just imagine he's here. Just, hahaha. "Young Yaoyorozu, you seem to have picked up muttering from the other little hero. But he's not here right now." All Might stepped down his foot and the ground shook. "And he said he would be back, and he keeps all his promises. So I don't have to worry about watching the exit." Momo was completely lost as All Might strode forward even closer. So it's time to see how you can fare on your own. All Might leapt forward. Let go of me, you damn bastard. Crack. Izuku and Bakugo tumbled to the ground from the blonde's punch. As Izuku rubbed the back of his head, Bakugo wobbly stood back up. You goddamn moron. Why did you come back? We would have won. You gave up. Out of anyone I know, you're the last person I would ever expect to give up. I just couldn't see it. I couldn't let it happen. Katsuki looked at Izuku with complete rage and bewilderment. The fuck are you talking about? Why the hell do you care? It's an exam. This isn't fucking real. I know. You shouldn't give up. Boom, Izuku held completely still as Katsuki blasted the wall next to him. He was avoiding eye contact with Izuku. Stop telling me what to do. It doesn't matter. We can't beat him head on anyway. But oh my god. I'm saying you and your annoying girlfriend were fucking right. This is hard enough as it is, so just take it. Bakugo walked back to the other side of the alley and sat down. Bakugo, what the fuck is that? Why do you keep doing that? I already hate the fucking nickname you gave me, but this stupid switching back and forth is even more annoying. Izuku rubbed the back of his head. Sorry. It's just I thought it would be appropriate to stop calling you that. Izuku watched Bakugo squint his eyes at him, deciphering something in his head. She told you to stop, didn't she? He watched Izuku squirm on the spot. I knew she fucking hated me for some reason. TCH, after all these years you talked. I figured this would fucking happen. So when do I leave? What? When am I getting expelled, idiot? If you told the vice president of the class and probably round face and 4 eyes, then the higher-ups shouldn't be long. She's the only one who knows. And it was kind of by accident. Don't worry, I made her swear not to tell anybody. Izuku said this to make Katsuki stay calm, but it seemed to have just infuriated him more. Why? What the fuck is wrong with you? I don't understand. Stop fucking looking down on me. After everything I've done, here you fucking are. You still try to help me all the damn time. You're holding my entire hero career in the palm of your hand, and you do absolutely nothing about it. Your own chick hates me, and yet you still ignore her and fucking stick to me like a damn leech. Do you think I can't handle myself? Do you think you need to fucking help me? Damn it, I hate you. Why did you come back for me? Why do you always come back? Answer me, Deku. Katsuki got back up, grabbed Izuku by the collar, lifting him off his feet. Izuku stared into his blood-red eyes of hatred and confusion, desperate for an answer and angry he doesn't have one. You never give up. Whenever I think of victory, I think of you. Bakugo was taken aback. I hate you. I really hate you. But if you give up, then my image crumbles. I don't want you to fail or get expelled because I want to beat you fairly. I want you to be there when I prove you wrong and be the #1 hero. I've never looked down on you. I've only ever looked up to you. You used to be everything I wanted to be. I just want to help people. I can't help it. Just shut up. No, you have to listen to me. I'm not the same person anymore, but you still are. You're still the same person who used to beat me up and mock me. You're still the same person that made sure my life was miserable. But you're still the same person I used to play heroes with too. You're still the same person that wants to be the best. You're still the same person that never gives up, no matter what. I came back because I want to help that person. I came back because I have you to remind me to never give up. I need you to always remind me of why I'm here. But if you'd rather give up than get my help, then you've destroyed yourself and your future before I could ever even think about it. So are you going to give up on this exam? Are you going to give up on being a hero? Shut up. Izuku was silent as Bakugo put him back on the ground. You're an idiot. I know. But you're an idiot who makes stupid plans that somehow work. Come on, let's go kick All Might's ass. Bakugo started walking away. But we need a plan. Walk and talk, Deku. This still doesn't change anything. Now hurry up. The same time. Smash. Momo put up her riot shield, but it hardly mattered. The impact caused her to fly into a replica shop window, crashing through shelf after shelf. The glass cutting her arms and giving her a gash on her forehead. Come on, Momo. Think. To Momo's dismay, her mind was still a jumbled mess. All Might leapt into the store and picked her up by the foot, swinging and slamming her into the wall. Toshinori pivoted on his foot and threw her back outside into a bus. Momo had barely made a shield from her back in time to soften some of the blow. She tumbled over and onto the other side of the bus. She was wasting her lipids on these big shields that only lasted a single blow from the hulking mass of justice. She picked herself up onto her hands and knees, coughing up some blood. She could definitely tell a rib or two were broken. Bruises were already forming across her body. So much for holding him off. I'm so useless. I knew I'd choke on the practical. Of course I did. I never even took the exam to enter the school, I was just recommended. How could I ever pass this? I'm failing. I'm failing Edgeshot. I'm failing myself. I'm failing. All Might marched his way out of the building. Hahaha. Can't you see these shields and flashbangs won't help you for long? It seems you are the one that's blinded. Izuku, you feel frustrated when you can't. You are improving, you just can't see how amazing you really are. Momo remembered that day. The day Izuku said those words to her. How she yelled at him. She had failed him again that day. She was blind, and Izuku was trying to unshroud her mind. He tried to make her see what he apparently could. No, she is blind. And Izuku is still trying to take away the veil she had placed in front of her to this day. I can't do it again. I can't fail him. Not again. Momo looked under the bus to see All Might's feet coming closer. She needed something. Now. Toshinori reached the bus and took hold of the bottom of it with both hands. He lifted up the bus over his head and laughed, sorry little lady, but even public transportation won't get you out of All Might. Looked down to see Yaoyorozu gone. All that remained was a Russian nesting doll? Well I'll admit it's cute. But Pop, the doll popped open to reveal another flashbang. Why is it always the eyes? Banged. Toshinori squeezed his eyes shut. In his temporary blindness, he couldn't see Yaoyorozu clinging to the bottom of the bus All Might was holding. She dropped down, sliced across All Might's bicep with fushigiri, and pulled out her capture cuffs. However, right before she could slap them onto All Might, he dropped the bus, causing Yaoyorozu to dive away from the scene. Okay, now I just have to. She couldn't believe it. She was back to square one again. Her mind was a complete mess again. I can't. Why can't I just know what to do? Yaoyorozu, what was it that you drew confidence from in your first lesson? That same day she yelled at Izuku, Edgeshot had asked that question. And once again it all led back to Midoriya. Izuku, why do I always need him around to think? Why does he? If you can't sort out the feelings right in front of you, right now, then you'll never sort them out in a fight. And you really like the color green. Favorite color? Yeah, sure. He's totally not your boyfriend. Whatever you say, girl. Well then Izuku, you can call me Momo from now on. Thank you, you're my best friend too. Who am I kidding? What's the point in denying it anymore? She thought back to everything. The moment they really talked for the first time. How after that day, they couldn't stop talking to one another. His cute stutter transferring to his texts. His kind pools of emerald he called eyes. The multiple levels of smiles he had, from soft to full-blown All Might. His diamond freckles and unruly hair just adding to his cute handsomeness. His unlimited courage and bravery he held even with a past like his. The trust he puts in her. The way he brings her up just by being there. The affection and closeness he only shares with her. The way he made her entire life feel complete and whole. He was pure of heart and mind. I've fallen for Izuku Midoriya. Glad to hear it. Momo is really starting to hate her newfound muttering. She looked up to see All Might recover from the flashbang and stand up straight. Too bad that he's not here right now. You're all alone. All Might punched another blast of air at Momo. She created a cloak from her back and swished it over her body. All Might watched as the cloak was hit by the air blast and torn to shreds, but Yaoyorozu had disappeared behind it. Oh come on. How's that even possible? Momo sat hidden behind a car, but she wasn't listening to All Might. She was having another flashback due to what All Might had said. He had said she was all alone. Someday, you will need to draw confidence and inspiration from yourself. Others cannot always be there. I've been relying on Izuku too much. Edgeshot told me that the feelings I couldn't decipher right in front of me would cloud my judgment. But now, I can see it. My denial of my feelings for him has kept me distracted of what he does to me. I use him too much. Ever since we officially became friends, I used him as my lifeline for whenever things became hard, even when fighting Stain. I didn't want to believe he was what I depended on, because it would cause me to admit what I feel for him. This is exactly what Sensei warned me about. It's what Izuku has been trying to stop me from doing since the beginning. I need to take the confidence he and others have in me and finally see it in myself. Momo slowly stood up and made her way to the middle of the road. All Might took notice of her, revealing yourself. The noob ninja here seems to have forgotten her teachings. Actually, I've finally realized what I should have been doing all along. Momo brought Fushigiri up by her face with both hands. Her right foot forward and her left foot strong and steady in the back. Her cleavage window glowed blue, ready to create anything she needed. She thought about all the great things Izuku, Edshot, her parents, and everyone else had ever said to her. But, for once, she truly believed them. She still had fear and uneasiness in her stomach. And maybe it was the fact that she was going toe-to-toe with the #1 hero. Maybe it was the fact that she finally admitted her feelings for Izuku to herself. But she had a new fire in her heart. I can see something different in your eyes. Hahaha. A reinvigorated spirit or not, it won't matter. All Might charged forward, but with his weights combined with the gash in his leg he was far slower than normal. This gave Momo just enough time to slash a wide circle around her, launching dust into the air. She's gonna disappear again, isn't she? Once again, All Might hit nothing but air when he got to the dust cloud. I'm getting really tired of this disappearing act. Well then hopefully you're not tired of explosions yet. All Might turned around to see Yaoyorozu half a dozen meters down the street. I'm very impressed by UA's commitment to making these cities as accurate as possible. From offices, stores, even sewer and gas lines, she said slyly, holding up a pin belonging to a grenade. All Might looked down at his feet to see a sewer grate. Shit. Boom. Momo knew that would only distract him for a few seconds. She tried to bolt to the nearby alley until she saw a glimpse of green. Izuku was crouched down in the alley. He put a finger to his lips signifying to keep quiet. Momo nodded and turned back to the task at hand. All Might walked out of the flames and smoke more annoyed than hurt. I guess I'm getting tired of explosions too. He shot forward to Momo, but she stood completely still. She didn't want to ruin whatever Izuku had planned. It seemed it wouldn't have mattered whether she moved or not. Did somebody say explosions? Katsuki jumped out from an alley behind All Might and blasted his back. When All Might turned around at the distraction, Izuku jumped out from his hiding spot wearing one of Bakugo's gauntlets. Sorry All Might. Click boom. Izuku pulled the pin on Bakugo's gauntlet, unleashing a massive explosion right into All Might. Bakugo then started shouting, "Alright now let's go." From the smoke, All Might grabbed onto Bakugo, swung him around, and smacked him into Izuku. He crushed both of their gauntlets, and then Toshinori lined the two up and punched Bakugo in the face. Bakugo's head whipped backwards and cracked against Izuku's face, both their noses now broken. The duo was sent flying back, only to be caught by a net courtesy of Momo. The boys stood back up and lined up with Momo. They watched as All Might's eyes seemed to light up. You three, it seems you all have taken it up a notch. You even got young Bakugo to cooperate. Haha. It seems that I'm gonna have to start trying now. That doesn't sound good. The three teens thought simultaneously. Bakugo turned to Izuku, well that plan failed dipshit. Anything else? Stop calling him names. Momo intervened. What did I say about telling me what to do? Both of you be quiet. The two stopped their bickering and turned to Izuku. We have to fight him. What? But Izuku, we don't have a choice. He's reinvigorated now and he's blocking the road right to the exit. We're not passing unless we get the arrest. He's been cut up pretty bad and the explosions are still wearing him down. Not to mention the weights. He's bluffing about how much he's being affected right now. He's far weaker than normal and he knows it. For once, I wish you're wrong. Bakugo then butted in. I fucking hate when you're right. Izuku looked to the other two. Momo, you're in worse shape than us and you're a much better shot. You're gonna have to give us suppressive fire. Kaken, we're probably about to get destroyed. Yeah, what else is new? Let's just get this fucking test over with so I can go back to despising you. Momo undid the clasp of her suit while Izuku turned around and shut his eyes, blushing up a storm, and created a cannon along with ammo. She weakly crouched down next to it, ready whenever they were. Izuku steeled himself and charged up to 10%, knowing he would regret it in the morning. Katsuki knew his arms were worn down from overuse of his quirk, but he told Pain to fuck off and got in position. The two charged All Might. Izuku bursting forward at blinding speed and Bakugo firing off like a rocket. Toshinori did the same, clashing with the boys halfway. The teens began to flail punches and kicks wherever they could. Izuku using his finger flicks and new speed to dodge what he could, and Bakugo doing the same with explosions. All Might socked Izuku in the gut, but Midoriya grabbed onto his arm and pulled All Might down. When he stumbled, Bakugo shot up and blasted All Might in the face, sending him back. Toshinori recovered and tried to launch back, but the boys both dodged to the side, and a large cannonball shot in between the two and hit Toshinori straight in the gut, his wound bursting with pain. Multiple more cannonballs came and hit him. With that distraction, Izuku and Bakugo shot forward and launched All Might high into the wall of a building. Bakugo shot off the ground like a rocket and Izuku ran up the wall. Both pinned down each of All Might's arm. Izuku pulled out his cuffs and tried to put them on All Might's wrist, but Toshinori busted out of their grips and unleashed a flurry of punches on the boys. He grabbed Bakugo and slammed his head into the building and sent a heavy elbow into Izuku's back. Izuku cried out in pain. His back was definitely close to breaking. All Might jumped off the building right towards Momo. He landed right on top of her cannon and was about to start his next assault on her. "No. She's already hurt. We have to get him." Izuku and Katsuki started to fall down from the building. Katsuki shouted over the rush of wind. "Throw me, you idiot." Izuku thought that just for a moment, whatever god or gods were watching out there finally showed him pity by letting him literally chuck his childhood tormentor into a fight where he was going to get his ass kicked. Izuku flipped over and used his feet to slide down the building. Izuku put his hands together like he was bouncing a volleyball and Bakugo put his feet on Izuku's hands. Izuku pushed himself to about 12% and shot off Katsuki like a bullet. Bakugo, ignoring the pain, set off his explosions behind him, making him even faster and essentially a human missile. Die. He slammed into All Might, pushing him away from Yaoyorozu. All Might stomped his foot into the ground, stopping their movement. Toshinori then tried to get Bakugo off of his arm by swinging him around into everything from the ground to the nearby walls and cars. Katsuki was hanging on for dear life as his body was beaten and scraped against surface after surface. Smash. Toshinori turned to see a giant, green electric burst of light shoot off from the building he was previously on, breaking all the windows with the shockwave, and come right for him at breakneck speeds and slam into his face. Toshinori fell to the ground, and all he saw was Izuku punching down on him and Bakugo setting off one last big explosion. Detroit smash. Go to hell. All Might was sent down into a large crater. The boys fell onto their backs, completely worn out. Izuku had put 100% into his big jump, so he couldn't even stand if he wanted to with his now broken leg. They saw All Might's hand come out from the crater as he tried to pull himself out. "Good effort, kids, but I can still fight." Click. Toshinori looked at his right arm to see Yaoyorozu attach her handcuffs to All Might and then to her wrist. She then promptly passed out with the rest of her team. The horn declaring they had passed went off. That is all for today's video. Thank you for watching. And please comment down below what you guys want to see next. I'll see you in the next video.